Humber Wave Radio 106.9.
Bit early there. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Humber Wave Radio and the Hull and Back podcast. We're on here until about 8 o'clock, depending on how we feel tonight and how we get going with it. I'm Eddie Wright.
I'm Joe Collins.
I'm all right.
And Christian Sorensen.
Hey, look how well that works this week. We're getting there, aren't we? It's a bit like the Hull City team. It's only took half a year for us to gel.
Oh, God.
We've done better than they have.
The tactics and go different ways.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, we need to stick to a 4-4-2, don't we? Or something like that.
Take it back to basics, definitely.
Take it back to basics. Good evening, everybody listening on the radio, online, watching on the podcast. It's good to have you tuned in tonight. Would love to have your comments tonight. Me and Joe had a chat a little bit earlier on today, and we said that it's a little bit like Groundhog Day here on the podcast and on the radio. We're talking about the same things all the time, and it's one of them where I didn't want to come on and be miserable tonight. I wanted to come on a little bit upbeat. It is hard being a Hull City fan at the moment to come on and be upbeat, but look, it's Christmas a week today. This time next week, we'll all be stuffed, we'll all be fat, and we'll have all had lots of things to... Well, I'll definitely be fat anyway. We'll have all had lots of things to eat and drink. So, you know, it's basically, let's all be happy.
And this time next week, ladies and gentlemen, you can settle in, ask your smart speaker to play Humber Wave Radio, or join us on the To Hull and Back podcast YouTube channel and listen to the four of us, possibly some more of the podcast regulars as well, ranking from best to worst all 60 plus of the signings Hull City have made under Adrian Ilagella's 3 years of ownership. And it's not just that, because now Hull City have just put out, which is a nice starter actually, tweeted at bang on 1904. There is a new vote for the Hull City Hall of Fame. Would you all like to hear who's up for the nomination?
We certainly would.
Yeah,
Certainly would.
So, the first one on the ticket is John Smith, played for Hull City from 1905 to 1910. Matt Bell from 1919 to 1931. Viggo Jensen from 1948 to 1956. Ken Houghton, 1965 to 1973. Keith Edwards, 1978 to 81 and 88 to 89. Tony Norman, 1980 to 88. Billy Whitehurst, 80 to 85 and 88 to 90. Warren Joyce, 1995 and 1996 to 2000. Justin Whittle, 1998 to 2004. And Stuart Elliott, 2002 to 2008. Currently in the Hall of Fame, which started back in, I want to say 2018. I think, 2018. Currently in there already as founding members were Ian Ashby, Billy Bly, Chris Chilton, Andy Jock Davidson, Ken Wagstaff. 2019, Pete Skipper was added. 2020, Dean Windass. 2021, Gareth Roberts. 22, Andy Dawson. 23, Nick Barmby. And earlier this year, Rach Carter.
Well, it's a very good list.
I don't like to pick any of them. They're all, you know.
Well, there is some really good names in there. I'll tell you what I'm going for, and I'll put it out live here on the podcast and on the radio. Justin Whittle. He is such a lovely guy. See him regularly around the club. He's an ambassador for the club already. He's doing lots of good things. Comes into the Tigers Trust Arena before the games lots of times, and he'll talk to absolutely anybody. He's got time for absolutely everybody. So Justin Whittle gets my vote.
That wouldn't be a bad call. Wouldn't be a bad call at all. But they're all good names out. They're all good players, and you know, he pays your money, he takes your choice, sort of thing. And I don't know who I'd pick out of them lot. They're all up there, I think.
Oh, you've got splinters in your backside tonight, Dad?
I must have, yeah. Yeah, I must have.
Anybody else going for anybody?
The closing date for that is Boxing Day. And the winner is set to be announced at half-time in our first game of 2025 against Middlesbrough and immortalised in our illustrious Hall of Fame. Then I'd imagine they'll get the winner in and present it to them properly for Doncaster or QPR after that, the 2 home games we've got following on from that in January. Christian, who would you go for out of that?
Look, there's some absolute legends there, isn't there? I mean, I might have to side with Eddie, with Justin Whittle, but Stuart Elliott is a huge shout for me. And I mean, huge. The memories that Stuart Elliott brings up are just all good ones. Every single one of them for me. So I'm stuck between Justin and Stuart. They're the 2 that stand out for me, but you can't argue with that list.
No, definitely not.
No, you definitely can't. It's a great list, and I'm sure people have to say, "There you go, that's my vote done." Just done it now, live on the radio and on the pod. I've just done my vote. Get your votes done. Hull City, if you go there, it's nice and easy to do. I thought, how hard's this to do? And there you go, press the button, it's done.
But I saw on Twitter today, it's actually 10 years to the day. Is it 10 years to the day? No, 14 years to the day, sorry. That David Burns on a different radio station, when he was interviewing Stuart Elliott, asked him, quote, "How does football compare to leading a church? Do you do cartwheels after a good sermon?"
Bless him.
Well, there you go. What was the answer? Do you know, Joe?
I don't know what the answer was. No.
I would imagine no, but you never know.
Well, you could listen. It probably could do some cartwheels after a good sermon. It certainly bring the church to life, and appeal to the more young people on that are listening and things like that. So yeah, it could do.
Simon in chat says he'd go for Stuart Elliott, and I think for me, because of my age, predominantly, it's between Warren Joyce, Justin Whittle, and Stuart Elliott. For me, I think all 3 should be in there and will be in there eventually.
Yeah, no, I
agree.
I'm
to do a few more than one at a time, maybe do 2 or 3.
Well, they do, but they started from now, Paul, doing, rather than just the fan vote every year, there's going to be an internal club and affiliates vote as well. So everyone at the club, everyone at Tigers Trust, everyone at the academy, a couple of different fan groups they work with, like the 120 Years Heritage Committee, they all get a vote in as to an additional Hall of Fame a second Hall of Fame edition every year. So they voted Rach Carter in earlier this year, which is about time. He should have been one of the founding members of it, Rach Carter.
Yeah, I would have said so, yeah.
And this is our fan vote now, and there'll be another edition announced later in the year. So that, in 2020.
Yeah, they should have more than one, shouldn't they?
It's hard as fans to pick between that list. It really is. I mean, I've gone for Justin just because I think he's working tirelessly around the club, and even outside the club. When I did the event back a couple of months ago in Brough for the Hull City Official Supporters Club, Justin stepped in, went on the stage because obviously of the injury to Liam Miller, and he couldn't make it. And he just steps in and does those things. He don't even think about it.
He's a great guy.
He is a great guy. So that's what I mean. Tony Norman would have been definitely up there. He was in my, if we remember back a few weeks ago when we did our best 11, Tony Norman was in my 11 there, and I would have had him in. Stuart Elliott, I can't argue with either, because Stuart Elliott gave me some great times as a Hull City fan. The goals that he scored for Hull City. Did he score 33 in one season? Do I remember? I think it was.
Sounds about right. It sounds about right, AD.
Yeah, and to score them goals for the club, he's another one that should certainly be in there. And as you say, Paul, it's probably, even with 2 a year, it's not enough. There needs to be probably, at least 1 a quarter going in there, I think, to add people to the Hall of Fame, because, it didn't start probably with enough, as you said. It could have started with a few more people, and it would have been nice if it started with a few more people. So, let's get some more in there. Let's do some more Hull City. Let's get, loads in there rather than just the few that we're doing.
Stuart Elliott got 29 goals in the 04-05 season. in
There
all
you go. 29
Half of that
goals.
was off the bench as well.
We'd take him now, wouldn't we, for 29 goals?
Oh, God, what would do for them goals, eh? Oh,
God.
yeah,
It's so upsetting, isn't it? We're going back.
We
back.
haven't even scored 29 goals, are we, this season?
We won't get anywhere near that.
Did we score 29 goals last season?
Yeah, we scored 60 odd last year.
Well, did we? Yeah. They can't have been that impressive for me, have they? I just feel it's this year, I think. Look, what are we? 13 days off the end of the year. We're hoping that Saturday could be our 4th win of the year at home. Wow. We'll be celebrating very, very well. I mean, the Christmas booze is going to come out early on Saturday if we get a win on Saturday.
I've got a bottle of Dom Perignon in the cupboard and I'll put it in the fridge. I tell you right now.
So we're on the podcast. We've talked about the Hall of Fame. It came out at a good time for us there. If you've got a Hall of Fame if you've got a vote for that Hall of Fame, then please let us know in the comments, or you can WhatsApp us as you always can on 01482 772 663 here on Humber Wave Radio. It'd be great to hear who you would put in the Hall of Fame. Out of that list, though, don't just make your own up. Go on the list that Hull City have published today. We need to talk.
Just going back to the internal vote I mentioned, Dan Little here, who's part of the Hull City DSA, says that the internal vote isn't limited to the short list they put forward at the start/end of a year for fans to vote on. So the internal vote could, in theory, I imagine, if they let anybody vote for anybody, it'll get whittled down to the most named 3, and then the vote will go around a second time. I'd imagine.
Yeah. That's how you'd think they'd do it. Anyway, I know obviously we haven't spoke for a week since last Wednesday. We was obviously at the game when our podcast went out on the Wednesday night. Hopefully you managed to listen again if you were at the game. But we hadn't had a chance to really talk about that game and about Saturday's game. And obviously then we've got this Saturday's game to talk about. I think we'll start on the positive of last Wednesday's game for me. I thought it was a little bit better last Wednesday. I came away a little bit happier. And, it would have been nice to get a win, but a draw was a good start for Ruben Sales, I think. But, it's gone downhill after that.
Well, I think the trouble is, again, we can't keep a clean sheet, can we? We've been saying it for weeks, haven't we? That's the big thing at the moment. We cannot keep a clean sheet. I think myself on Saturday, I'm going forward, I suppose, ahead. He's got to be defensive. I think he's got it, because we haven't got anybody up front anyway. So looking for a goal is, looking like, a diamond in a load of sand or something, because we haven't got goals, have we? And we've scored 1. If you look at Blackburn, they've kept 5 clean sheets. They've only scored 6 goals. They've got 15 points. If we can keep a clean sheet, it gives you a chance, doesn't it? You only have to sneak 1 goal, which is as much as we're able to score. I just think we've got to go a bit backwards. We did do well against Watford, and it was disappointing to get a draw at the end of the day, I thought. Somebody could have pulled that lad's shirt back. I think Slater was near him, taking the free kick, taking the booking. Maybe, I suppose he's thinking he ain't going to go the full length, the half length of the field and get a cross in and score. Maybe that was in his thoughts. But, we are as clever as that a lot of the time. A lot of other teams do that, don't they, against us? We don't seem to do it very often. Take one for the team sort of thing. And I think, we could have done on that occasion. And it's disappointing. I mean, what was the 5 or 6 minutes to go and they've got the equaliser after? To be fair, I don't think they had been in our half in the second half. I think was quite dominant, to be honest, second half. And so disappointing to let a goal in again. And 1 clean sheet this season, it needs to improve, and I think that's where he needs to start. I don't know what you lot think.
What I was going to say, listening to what you're saying there, it's one thing that we've not been this season is streetwise in the squad, is it, Christian?
No, not at all. I mean, we're going to go back and let's just analyse Wednesday as it was and how we felt when we left. When we finished, we were obviously gutted that it was a draw. How often do we actually, this season, have we actually left the game and gone, we should have won that. We should have won that. Yeah. We should have held out. And that's the thing. Like, usually this season, we're like, oh, God, we should have had that draw because it's been a loss. Obviously, we've left on a loss and we should have seen it out. But this is the first time we've looked at a game and gone, we've lost the lead.
Yeah.
We've actually lost it this time. And I think that was the most upsetting thing watching the game, because the lads really did play well. Hey, we played with a midfield, lads. We played with a midfield, and it looked good. It looked good for 45 minutes plus. And that was the thing. Like, it was amazing to see.
What's a midfield?
I know, but it was nice, attractive football, and we all enjoyed watching it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Watford are a really good team. They are a really good team. That, you know,
Well drilled, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, well drilled. And I wasn't expecting a result at all.
No.
I wasn't expecting a result, and we came out looking like a completely different team. Now, the only downfall to it was, and the evidence of that game was how poor we are up top. How goddamn poor. And that is the thing about this season in a nutshell. We keep saying it. Everyone's going to keep saying it. We can keep talking about January transfer window. I still personally feel, because we don't have the striker quality, I'm still stating this now. We can't afford to be playing with one sole striker or one sole attacker up top if we don't have the quality. Maybe two up top would actually equal one good one.
So they can
play off each other, because they just don't have it. And I thought Bairstow did really well again when he came on. I mean, that's Coventry as well. I can actually say the same for Coventry. Sorry.
Yeah.
When he came on, he looked, if anything, the best player when he came on. Other than the amount of efforts that Palmer's been putting in over the last two games as well, I think Palmer's been outstanding. Everyone actually looked good at Watford, so I'm just going to focus on Watford until we actually go down to Coventry, because I've got a bit of a funny one for Coventry to advise how I watched that game. Let's just say I wasn't at home. And with respect to the Watford themselves, I think they were a bit shocked as well with how well we were actually playing and keeping hold of the ball. I mean, what was it, the first half stats? Joe, you're Mr. Statman, you should know this. But in the first half, I'm pretty confident we had something like 16 attempts to their, 2. I believe.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't thought you was far off at that, Christian, but I'm sure Joe will find out for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try.
And usually when we've had an attempts, they've just been pot shots. They've been nothing. They've just been get the ball in. But for the first time this season, we've actually got the ball into the box and actually gone, go on, go on, go on. You know, you're screaming at everything thinking it's going to go in, because of the way we were playing. There was a different energy, which was really nice. And as you can see in my little statement, the good, the bad, the ugly, well, that's the good so far, because Watford match, even though it was a draw, it was a good watch. It was a good
It
display.
was a good watch. No, yeah. I think it's one of them where you felt as though you'd been entertained by the game, which, you know, you can't say that a lot in 2024. That at home at the MKM Stadium, you felt entertained, and I do think we felt entertained on Wednesday. But the thing with it is you're right in what you're saying. It's that big problem up top, and I think we've not addressed that. And Ruben certainly hasn't fully addressed that yet, because we're not pressing as we should be doing. We're not pressing with the front three. We're pressing as a one. And when you press as a one, and then you're asking the other two to look at they're looking at the left and the right back, but they're also looking at the left and right winger, and they dare go too far up because they're looking backwards as well as looking forwards. Well, to me, you've got to rely on the people behind you to take that left and right winger, and you've got to concentrate on the left and the right back, because that's the only way that you're going to press them. And when teams press us, they always press us high, and they seem to do it okay. I don't know why. Whatever manager, whatever team we get out, we can't seem to do it. It's so frustrating, isn't it, Joe?
It is. I have the stats from Watford for you, Christian.
Cheers,
in the second half in the match overall, Watford had 58% of possession to our 42. But if we take that just as the second half, it was 59 to 41. But we had 9 shots to their 5, but 2 on target for both sides. In the first half, it was 56% possession in Watford's favour. They had 7 shots, we had 4. So, but it's showing we've had if you take that out to across the game, we've had about the same amount of shots, us slightly edging it, but they scored. I'll try and get the point across I'm trying to make here. They looked more
drilled.
They looked more likely to score from the chances they were creating, from the shots they had. We didn't. And the fact our goal came from Abu Kamara's cross, Marvin Malem hit it from the penalty spot, and Chris Badilla stood in his way. It bounces off his right leg onto his left hand. And the keeper's gone one way, expecting Malem's shot to go to his right, and Badilla's just punched it to his left. That's no goal of the season contender, is it? And you like Chris.
I don't know. It's in the top 20.
we have got 20
goals, haven't we?
The scary thing, right? The bad one was the interview after about his goal. It was, I think, the comment was along the lines of, "Well, Chris has got his goal. Do you think that's going to spare him on for a lot more?" And I'm like, he didn't even know he scored it.
No, Christian. The worst bit was Chris Badilla turning towards the cameras on the front of the West Stand and putting his finger to his lips.
Oh, no.
With your hand.
I know.
By virtue of being stood in the way of an actual shot. If you scored a worldie, then I accept it. But not after that are you allowed to shush anybody.
No.
He's our joint top scorer this year, yes. But all of his goals, a penalty, a tap-in, and an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the quality of striker on offer for you at Hull City at the moment. If you've not seen them this season, then you're missing a treat, let me tell you. Don't get much better than this, do you?
We're just diving into chat quickly to see what people are saying. Coxie will talk about the January transfer window. Inevitably, of course we will, and we will come back to that comment. Simon Wilson says about Coventry, rest Louis Coyle, looks tired out and he's played every game. Harry says it's hard to keep clean sheets when our fullbacks are afraid to make a tackle. Giles is the worst player I've ever seen in one-on-one defensive situations. Coxie wants to know what's happened to Regan Slater this season. Regan Slater is going to be put in front of the press tomorrow for the first time since he was subbed at half-time against Derby, where he made some comments which got fans talking about Tim Walter. So we'll see what he says about Ruben Sayers in comparison, perhaps, when he's faced with some questions from the media. João Pedro was brilliant at Watford. It was Longman that missed all the chances.
Yeah,
oh my God. Sitter.
So many.
Chris Badilla needs his loan cancelling.
I was hoping Nathaniel was going to be on today, I'll be honest with you, because I really wanted to bring up how many misses Longman had.
Listen, I think the thing with it is, Christian, he did have some misses, but the thing that you'll always get out of Longman is you'll always get the 100% effort, and I think that's fans want to see, that effort at the moment, and that's what you need to get through. I think
with Louis Coyle, right? Because Louis Coyle's the same.
I've stuck up for Louis Coyle, but he had an awful game on Saturday.
Yeah, I am one of Louis Coyle's biggest defenders, but he had a stinker.
He had a nightmare night.
He did.
As much as I don't want to say it because I love the bloke, I love him as a player, I love him as a person, he's just a class act. He needs taking out the limelight for his own sake, and playing Cody Drama in his favoured position, now's the perfect time to make that change.
Yeah. Right, so just if we're going down that road... Sorry,
Pando, can I? Sorry. I think Pando should be taken out a little bit. I'm sure it was Watford, the ball put through and he didn't come out for it. The defender had, expected him to because it was well past the defender and he left it in last minute he got to it. I don't know at the moment. He just doesn't seem to be giving me that same confidence that he had a few matches ago.
That penalty save.
It is a statement.
He's ever saved
Christian out. He had 13 what he hadn't saved. So it's the first time he's ever saved a penalty. So I think if we was in goal, eventually we would save one. Maybe not, I don't know, but I just don't, he doesn't fill me with that sort of confidence that he had early part of the season. I don't know. I just think
Well,
the defenders aren't happy with him. I don't think, because I say a couple of times the ball's been put through and he hasn't come out for it, which you would expect him to be there and just pick it up, and he hasn't been. And he don't particularly, from corners and crosses. Has scored 2 goals, didn't he, on Saturday from crosses? He just stood on his line. I don't know. I don't know whether I would give the other chap a game. Is it Recoppy or somebody? Choppy or even Rushworth if he's fit? I don't know if he is. Sorry, Joe.
Carl Rushworth's going to be back any sort of day now.
Yeah,
he's out of his protection.
I think he should be looking at putting him in. Anyway, sorry, Eddie, you carry on what he was going to say.
I was just going to say, if you're playing Drama at right back, who are you playing at left back?
I wouldn't have a left back or right back. I'd have wingers.
We haven't got a left back and we haven't got a right back. Yeah, okay, yeah, we've got Jacob and Jacobs and that, but no, we don't own a left back. We don't own a right back. The only way at the moment with the squad we've got available, with the fitness, the fit players and the on form players. I say on form, even though I'm going to mention someone who's completely not on form. You're saying wing backs, aren't you? And Ryan Giles.
Yeah, look, the game Ryan Giles played as a wing back, he looked brilliant. He actually looked really good. If you play 3 at the back, I mean, I don't understand why we couldn't actually have Hughes, Jones, and Louis Coyle at the back, because Coyle likes to go back anyway. You may as well keep him at the bloody back. You've got Jones, who's going to sit in that centre spot, and Hughes is going to clear it up because he's been running up and down that left side of this defence. So why don't we use the players in their positions on the wingers that are playing best that way? We saw Giles do it. I think Drame plays better a bit higher up as well, if I'm honest. So why not utilise that system? Have your 2 strikers up front with Bairstow, so you literally are playing a 3-5-2 with that little diamond shape that we've got going on at the moment, with the kind of cameo role and the 2 sitting central midfielders.
It is a fair comment. It is a fair comment, Christian. I just, I don't know whether the manager likes that. He's not really played that way before, has he?
No, he hasn't. And that was one of the things about when he came in. Apparently, he's kind of stuck in his ways. But yet, the first game he played, his ways was apparently 4-3-3. But yet, the first game formation we saw was 4-5-1. 4-2-3-1-1. With the holder, central forward behind the main striker, and that looked decent with the midfield and the way we were playing. But I still think, I mean, let's bring up Kamara. Like,
Kamara's such a frustrating player, isn't he?
He's awful.
There's glimpses.
Nothing.
There's glimpses of a good player in there when he puts crosses in, like he did for Bairstow against Borough, like he did for Longman against Coventry, like he did for Malem, which led to Padilla's goal. All 3 of them led to goals. But it's just for the majority of games, he doesn't seem bothered.
No, he doesn't at all. I mean,
the wingers should take the full-back on as often as they can, and he doesn't seem to want to do that very often, which I don't like. Wingers, to me, take the full-backs on and make things happen, and he just doesn't do it often enough.
He doesn't help Coyle at all, because he's so far away. Coyle needs someone to pass to down that line, and he's too busy just dawdling back. Yeah, he hasn't got a right foot. He's only got a left foot, and like you said, Joe, all right, his crosses has created something. But I could stand on the pitch, receive the ball, and just do a cross into a zone. It is literally a cross. I haven't seen anything that's made me go, he's a well beater, he's a player beater, he's going to create something, he's going to be special. So, and we waited all this time about, obviously, he was on the left. We've waited all this time for him to go on the right. He's had a few games on the right, and he's played worse on the right than he has on the left.
Yeah. Probably so. What I want to say is this, obviously we've got the new manager in. We get us a 1-1 draw last Wednesday. Saturday we're on to Coventry. We get us the first goal against the run of play. It was massively against the run of play. Frank Lampard, I don't think has been a good manager while he's been in management, but he'd certainly weighed up what we was going to do, and he'd certainly set his team up to play well against us. And we looked really poor on Saturday. Now, we've obviously had Andy Dawson take these players. We've now got Ruben Sales. We started off with Tim Volter. Is it the manager or is it the players?
I think now the German has gone, there are more eyes on the problems that were beneath him. Was Tim Walter utterly dreadful in every single way? Oh, yeah. We can all agree. Everyone listening can agree. He was dreadful in just about every imaginable way. When there are reports coming out that he decided he would freeze out different people, technical staff, backroom staff, players because they walked into training wearing some clothes he didn't like, as an example, then that's just no way to run a football club. That's no way to treat people. And you wonder where we found him. But it's starting to make, now he's gone and results still aren't happening, it's starting to bring into focus more the failures of the summer and the fact that I use the example of we've got no assets that are worth anything now.
No, we haven't.
Apart from Cody Drama, who we signed on a free, which one of these players will get sold for more than what we bought them for? Exactly. Exactly. There's an argument for Ivor Panda and Charlie Hughes.
Charlie Hughes, I think you're going to get more for Charlie Hughes than you paid for him.
I think.
Yeah, down the line.
The only thing with Hughes is, has he done well? Has he looked good? Yes. But we've paid £3.5 million for him, and in a game he's played, we've not won yet. Would a team pay in advance of that for a player who hasn't won a game of football since April?
It's a fair comment. It is a fair comment.
Yeah. We have made a lot of bad signings, to be fair. That's the problem, isn't it? We have made a lot of bad signings.
The problem, I think, the problem is that we're gonna, as we said at the beginning of this program, it all comes back to the same thing every time, and it's a bit like Groundhog Day, isn't it? Because of these bad signings that we've made. We all know that we've made bad signings. We all know that the squad ain't good enough. For me, I think that, we probably need to look at our under-21s and under-18s a little bit more to try and bring some of them through rather than trying to buy our way out of it in January, because I've said the
exact same thing so many times. I've said this so much. The best under-18s team in living memory for me is this year that I can remember. That's including the team that brought through Keane Lewis Potter and Jacob Greaves. It's the best the under-21s have been for a couple of years. They had a good season 2 years ago. They were appalling last year. About this time of year, they'd been on a run where in 9 games they'd conceded 54 goals. But now they've picked themselves up and they've just been on a run of, I think, 10 wins in 12. Tyrell Sellers-Fleming, new contract, 4-year deal. He's scored 8, 9, 10 goals this season already. And the pathway for those guys, the 18s can't come up to the 21s and prove themselves there because the 21s lads are stuck in the 21s because the first team squad is filled with, it's bloated, it's players on big wages who aren't good enough, who for some of them probably don't want to be here. And then you've got players like Sellers-Fleming, Harry Vaughan, Stan Ashby, Rocco Coyle, good prospects who are playing well for the 21s, who can't break through. No matter the level, Tyrell Sellers-Fleming at the minute knows where the back of the net is. Stan Ashby, it's probably worth giving him a go at the state our defence is in. So the downside of all the recruitment Adjun does and the money he's put into signings is that pathway that existed under the Allams is blocked. And no player can come up here now and break in. Apart from Harry Vaughan did it a few years ago when we had a bit of an injury crisis. And, well, no one else has done it since Adjun took over.
Well, let me just put a comment in here from Andrew Scott. He said he doesn't think it's worth changing the system just to accommodate Giles. Giles needs to go in the transfer window. He's an expensive experiment that's not worked. We've got 3 or 4 left backs, including those out on loan, and nobody would pick any of them. He's got a fair point there. He certainly has. And I would sell Giles definitely in the January transfer window.
To be fair, it was the same last season, wasn't it? We had about 7 left backs, didn't we? Here and there. You know, I don't know what the problem is with left backs in Hull City, but you know, we just can't seem to tie anybody down who's half decent or that gives you a 7 out of 10 most weeks. I mean, that's one thing Coyle does. I know he had a poor game on Saturday, but normally he's about 7 out of 10, isn't he? Yeah, you know, the left backs, you know, they're just in and out, and the number we had last year was unbelievable.
Can I get a bit controversial now?
Go for it.
So we've got 19 minutes left, just over 19 minutes left. And my controversial thing is this. On Twitter this last week, I saw somebody put, are we any better under a John than we were under the Alams? And this person got a little bit of flack for it, but I've got to say, we're not any better than we were.
It's a very interesting point you make, Adi, because it's coming up to 3 years.
Yeah.
In the Alam's first 3 years, there was progression year on year on year.
Yeah.
They took a risk, sacking Nick Barmby, a manager who was respected by fans, players who loved the club, brought in Steve Bruce. All was forgiven because within 2 years, we'd been promoted to the Premier League and got to an FA Cup final and were in Europe.
Yeah.
Adjun tries the same thing. It's an act of self-sabotage in sacking Liam Rosenior. That can be agreed. We've not recovered from that at all because the replacement was not at all right. And it comes around to how the reputations of these owners fell apart. The Alams, because of the name change, Adjun because of sacking Liam Rosenior and everything that's followed. All of them, both of those events and the downfalls of their reputations, after being quite loved before, came because of an act of self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And we are now, under Adjun, 3 years later, we have doubled the wage bill, had a chair of, as you've seen, 60-plus players come in, and probably about a similar number go, and we're now in a worse league position than we were when his takeover was being processed exactly 3 years ago.
And if you look at it in that respect, if you look back 3 years ago, look back at the squad that we had at that point, and look at the squad that we've got at this point, is the squad any better now than it was when he took over? And how many million has he spent when we hadn't spent anything on the squad that he had when he came in?
Yeah.
On paper,
if you're asking that now, no.
Yeah,
right now, no. If you ask me in April, has he done more? Was the squad better? Yeah.
Yeah.
In April, it was.
But that squad wasn't ours, Christian.
Well, that's true. That's the thing. It wasn't. It was all loanees.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest issue. And look, us as fans, we all complained about this. And not going up last season, or not even making playoffs, last season, is the biggest thing that has caused the downfall of our club this season. Because I promise you, if we made playoffs, a lot of those loanees would have turned into full-timers.
I don't know, because if we're making the playoffs wasn't going to do that. Only getting promoted was going to turn them into permanent deals. Making the playoffs wasn't going to make that. I'm going to say the downfall of our club is a Juns trying to get to the Premier League and trying to spend big money to get there and taking a massive unnecessary risk when he could have basically tried to build it more steadily. And, everybody, you can look at all these clubs, and we look at them. We look at the Boltons and the Berries and all these clubs that we've seen in the past that have, maybe tried to go for it a little bit, spent too much money, and you look where they are now. Derby County is another one. We talked about Reading, the points deduction that they've had and stuff like that. All these things are because people are impatient and they don't realise that getting to the Premier League from the Championship is so difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. We went there for 104 years. It took us 104 years to get there. That's a long time, right? For a club, Hull City's size. We're not a small club. I know we're not a big club, but we're not a small club. It took us 104 years to get there. What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think the thing was, I think we did well up to Christmas, didn't we? And he sort of backed him instead of just sort of seeing how it went after that a little bit. He's gone in with some signings, and as you said, we lost Delap obviously, and Philogene was out for a little while, but Philogene didn't come back anything like the player he was, and obviously Delap was late on in the season. But the trouble is, we had no backups, did we, for Delap? The people he had, Connolly and Billy, what's his name?
Sharp,
yeah, we had him as well. There weren't backups for Delap, really, were they? And Ohio was a bit of a backup, I think.
If Ohio came in if he was fit, I think Noah Ohio's a Hull City player now. I think we'd have signed him. But the thing with January was we didn't need to go all out, like you're saying, Paul. We were top 6 in December, as Harry points out. So adjunct logic was we're in the top 6 and I can make improvements to this. And the improvements dropped us out of it. Carvalho came in and replaced the goals we probably lost with Delap. Omer was all right last year, but he's been poor now. Panda didn't play. Sharp was useless. Ohio didn't play until the last 3 games when, admittedly, he did look quite good. Zaruri was a waste of time because it meant shoving Jaden Philogene out on the right. And Ryan Giles has proved to be poor. And we've spent £4.5 million on him. It was...
And that's the issue, isn't it? You look at it and you think, what did we have in the under-21s that he could have had a go at instead of spending all that money on the loans or something like that, and this is the frustration, I think, I think maybe, listen, I think these fans that look with rose-coloured glasses at John's reign, probably because, some of them have been to Turkey. I think you're one of them, Joe. And basically, he has done some good things with the club. I'm not saying he hasn't.
Eddie, it equally comes to what was before it as well. When you compare it to the years of, destitution, for the want of a better word, fact that we had under the Alams, anyone who comes in, makes tickets affordable, says they'll pump some money in, and takes fans on a free holiday, it's a massive win.
It's a funny thing, this is how people look at things, isn't it? Because this make tickets more affordable thing, my pass has gone up twice since John's been in, so it's actually costing me more money every year than it was with the Allens.
Just because you don't sit behind one of the goals.
Just because I don't sit behind one of the goals, yeah. So it's gone up twice, and I'm paying more money than I wear under the Allams, and I'm probably not seeing any better football than I wear under the Allams, and that's a problem. I'm not going to cancel my pass because I've been going for years. I like my Saturdays. Even if we don't win, we have a bit of banter in the pub. We have a good laugh. We make our own fun there, and we enjoy ourselves. So I won't stop doing it because it's a great social event. But have I been more entertained in these last 2 years than when the Allams were in charge? No, I definitely haven't. And if people want to have a go at me and argue with me, then that's fair enough. You can say your piece, there's no problem. But the good thing under the Allams was there was a pathway for the youth team. Since John's been in, there's been no pathway at all. You look at Harry Vaughan, how he came into the team, was really low on players. He got brought in by Liam and he was playing really well. And then we signed some players, we spend some money, and people like Harry Vaughan then don't have a pathway to come through to the club. They don't have that thing like I'll sling you on for 20 minutes of the game to get you a bit of experience, Harry, or anything like that. And I think it's totally wrong, to be quite honest with you, because we've got a lot of players that we're spending a lot of money in the academy on, and probably maybe 1 or 2 over the next 2 years are actually going to get into the first team.
Well, the way things are going, the only player I think who's got a chance is Stan Ashby, and that hurts me to say, because I mean, Harry makes the point that in the Donny friendly he was poor, yeah, but everyone was poor, and it's a friendly. Who cares? There's a reason he's an Ireland under-19 international when he was 17. And Enshep, the lad who left the 21s recently, in George Dickinson, who came in the summer from Sheffield United, came in as captain and then just left last week. That wasn't because of anything football related. That was a personal thing. He just decided it wasn't for him anymore. And I think he's going to go and work on the oil rigs now.
Well, there you go. That's a change. He might be getting a bit more money for working on the oil rigs. You're listening to Tiger Talk on Humber Wave Radio and the Hull and Back podcast. It's great to have you tuned in tonight. Thanks for all your comments up to now. Keep them coming. Argue with me. Come on, I want you to argue with me if you don't agree with me. It's great to have a little bit of a debate on here, and that's what it's all about. You know, these three who are sat with me, they don't agree with me most of the time. So, you know, I'm quite happy for the others not to agree with me either. It's all what it's about, football. It's all about opinions. We love to keep them coming. And that's why I wanted to be a little bit controversial tonight. I'd seen the comment on Twitter, and I just thought it was a fair comment, to be honest. Have we improved? You know, and to me, I don't think we haven't. He's got a bit of work to do to make us improve. I don't think January is the time to do it. I think probably next summer is the time to start trying to change things around. I do think that in what I would do at the moment, and you hope that because he's signed this manager, Ruben, he likes to bring the youth through. He's actually going to try and bring some of these youth players through. I think it definitely make Joe happy. It definitely make me happy.
Would you like a wild card? Would you like a wild card? I would chuck from the 18s Zach Jagielka into the first team as well. Now, there's a familiar name there, of course, in Phil. It's Phil Jagielka's son. I was stood next to him at the game, at the under-18s game on Saturday. And Zach Jagielka knows where the back of the net is for the 18s this year. Because of our struggles up top, I'd be tempted to throw him in first team training for a day or two, see how he gets on.
I don't think it's a bad call because we do need some up top. The only thing I'm frustrated about is that he still hasn't tried Bairstow as his striker. He's tried Bairstow on the wing, you know, and you said it earlier, Christian. When he's played, he actually looks interested. He looks like he wants to put some effort in. I think he's got a little bit of speed about him. He might have a little bit of skill on him as well. He's yet to be seen.
Outside of the foot that he did.
Yeah, it was good outside of the foot. I liked that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm frustrated that you haven't tried Bairstow. Well, none of them have tried Bairstow there yet. I'm frustrated about that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, why we're not playing to, like, well, you can't have Bairstow up top by himself. I will state this. You can't. He's not strong enough to hold a ball up in that way. He runs off the ball. But if you've only got one striker just running off the ball and nobody else around him, it's a pointless task because you're in no man's land by yourself. So he does need someone to play with off him. But having him up top to play those balls and having someone off him will create more of a chance or even more of an opportunity on goal. Like you said, you saw a bit of skill out of him. You can see the effort. You've seen what he's coming on doing. Stop banging him on the wings, for crying out loud. If the guy's coming into the box more often than everybody else is, and yet you've put him on a wing, bang him in the middle and see what he does up top, because he's the one that's trying.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I watch this space, because when he does, he's going to get a couple of goals. And I'm saying it now to everybody. If he starts getting a couple of goals in, I'm going to be that guy that goes, I told you so. I want to be that guy that says, I told you so. I really do.
On Twitter, Christian.
They all seem to be fixated with this 4-3-3, don't they? Two sort of wide men in one. They all seem to be fixated with it. And you've got to have the right players, as you say, Christian, and we haven't. You know, and I think throwing two up front, you know, I suppose not big lads, but two sort of centre-forward type players is better than having two wingers who are not crossing the ball very often. They're not taking the man on. They're not going back and helping the full-backs, which they like them to do as well. You may as well have two up front and have five in the middle, 3-5-2. I don't see that wrong with that. You still get a little bit on the wings, but you've got them to come back as well, and you're quite solid. And I think we need to be doing that. And you've got two up front, as you say, can cause a little bit more problems than one, and I think it's a good call, to be honest, Christian. But I suppose that's why we have managers.
if we're going to stick with wingers, Will Jarvis. Give him a go.
He hadn't had a go, has he?
Give him a go from that.
Give him a go under Ruben. Yeah, give him a go under
Paul,
Ruben.
For the love of God, on his proper favoured left side.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got just over 5 minutes left on the podcast and on the radio tonight. It's been good to have your comments on. We're going to switch it now to Saturday's game. Ruben's going to have had a full week of training, which I think might benefit him a little bit. It was really difficult to go from having a couple of days to only having then another couple of days before another game. Is this week of training going to help him, John? What's he going to do this Saturday different to what he did last Saturday?
Well, I think it's for Ruben Sayers, it's tough because he's got a very tough job on his hands and he'll have known that when he took it on. And I think he's just got to get through to January. If we can pick any points up, great. But get through to January when he can get some players in. Rumours that he's going to take one or two from Reading. Which, are they what we need in terms of quality? Perhaps. But...
is he allowed to?
Yeah, well, the talk is that there's an agreement Sayers wouldn't, but Reading might need the money so desperately that they'll waive any agreement. So we've been linked with Harvey Nibbs. We've been linked with Lewis Wing. And it wouldn't surprise me if we're linked with a couple more as well, just because he knows them, they're familiar, and he knows he can get a tune out of them playing a certain way. With regards Saturday, I'm not expecting anything. Swansea aren't a great side, but we're probably worse. And I think we're looking at Preston away as our most winnable game before the end of the year of the three we've got left on Boxing Day, even though it's away from home, because Preston are in and around us, and hopefully that will motivate the side.
Yeah, Swansea sitting in 10th place at the moment on 27 points. They're doing quite a lot better than Hull City, who sit in bottom position on 16 points. As you say, the Preston, they are on 23 points, so they are only 4 points behind Swansea. There's no easy game in the Championship, Christian, is there?
Not for us. You've got to have a striker to get it, but let's not go, like I say, Groundhog Day on this. Look, with Ruben, he's like the first two games in charge. What in total of training? 3 days he had. Yeah. One of them was a welcome day. After the game on Wednesday, Thursday was pretty much a rest day and sit in the classroom and analyze. Friday, a bit of training, then go on to Saturday, where they looked all of them looked tired. They looked, well, other than poor, it wasn't a nice game to watch. So having Sunday off to rest, back at it on Monday and analyse, full week of training. I mean, obviously, I know we're only on Wednesday, so he's pretty much only had them, for a short period of time. But sorry, Joe?
They'll have had a day off today.
He would have had a day off today as well. Exactly. So they would have had another rest. And I think the one telltale sign for us on this Saturday will be, as compared, like we said, to Frank Lampard, is before we used to play under Walter, we didn't go in with a game plan. We went in that style. Now, with Ruben having a week, are we going to go in with a game plan and see a different City come out on Saturday after having a week? Because that's the one thing, like we said with Lampard, he's had 4 games in charge. First one was a draw, second one was a win, third one was a loss against West Brom, and the fourth one was against us and steamrolled us. So I think now he's coming up to his third game. We've had a draw, we've had a loss. Let's go in with a plan.
Is Paul the third game going to be his win?
Well, I'd like to think so. Can we get 4 wins in a year? Is it possible? I don't know. They're always a tough team, Swansea, aren't they? No matter when you play them, they always play good football. They don't always have a great striker, but they're always hard to beat. They always play some good football. I reckon they'll have more possession than we will. It's about us I still say it's about us keeping a clean sheet. I think that's the main prerogative I would go for this week when I'll be training with them. I'd have said we need to keep a clean sheet no matter what it takes, even if it means going a bit defensive. we need a clean sheet and hopefully pinch a goal because, I mean,
I'd be buzzing with
Blackburn are
it.
about 5th or 6th, aren't they? You know, they've kept loads of clean sheets. We can't keep. We've kept one all season.
We've got 30 seconds left on the podcast on the radio now. It's been good to have your company this week. Any final closing comments, Joe, before we go?
Join us next week when we rank all 60 plus of signings under Adjan in his 3 years of ownership. That's going to be pre-recorded. We'll see you on Christmas Day.
It'll be a good Christmas Day adventure, that one. We're looking forward to it already. Thanks for your company tonight. We'll be back next week. I've been Eddie Wright.
I've been Joe Collins.
I've been Paul Wright.
And I'm Chris Sorensen. See you later, guys.
Have a good week. We'll see you later.
Cheers. Yeah. Bye.